All right, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome, property finders. We have amongst us as well the acquisition managers that will be basically your go-to people. So the structure is that you as property finders will be going out, making offers, and that's kind of like a pre-filter to see if the people are actually interested, if they're motivated enough to work with a price that will work for us. If they're not motivated enough, then they're just gonna, not respond. But if they are motivated, the acquisition managers will pick up from where you left off. So that channel of communication needs to be tight between you as property finders and the acquisition manager that you're working with. We're still wrapping up the assigning of property finders to acquisition managers. That will be completed today. So we're almost done with that. But each of you, we're going to have 5 or 6 property finders per acquisition manager. The idea is we have 3 full-time property finders for each acquisition manager, or it might be 6 part-time, thank you, part-time acquisition manager. I'm sorry, part-time property finders per acquisition manager. So we're going to wrap up that assignment. We'll let you know who your acquisition manager is that you're working with and what market you're working in. So right now we have 3 markets that we're working within, which is Atlanta, Dallas, and Jacksonville. So you might be assigned any of those 3, but keep in mind, it doesn't matter where you live. You can work any market with Privy across the whole United States. We chose these particular markets because we have a foundation in them. They're solid markets. We know there's good deals in them. We have Dispo set up to handle them. So we don't want you guys having to go chase down deals that end up not really being a good market to be in. So we're organizing it so that whatever efforts you put in has the greatest chance of closing, of dispoing, and everyone gets paid. Because nobody likes to work hours and hours and hours on a deal that ends up not being a deal. So we're trying to set this up in the best way so that all of your efforts end up going through the whole funnel and closing, and we all get a paycheck. So we have amongst us, I see Michelle, I see Jorge. Is Robert here? Well, not Robert, I'm sorry. Michelle, Jorge, anybody that are, how do you say, acquisition managers, if you can raise your hand or wave your hand or whatever, those are the ones that are going to be your go-to people. They're the J family in the middle. So you'll get to know in particular who you're working with. They have helping them out the Dispo managers. I mentioned Robert. Robert is one of those Dispo managers here with us. Aji, are you on board with this? Maybe, maybe not. We have 3 Dispo managers, and all 3 Dispo managers are reporting to Lynn Bell, who's here with us.
I am.
There's Aji down there, and there's Lynn Bell. So that's, the funnel of how the workflow flows and how we help each other out. So you guys have your support system. You don't have to worry about who can I talk to. We're going to tell you at the end of the day, who's your go-to person, which is your acquisition manager. And that acquisition manager will have their go-to person, which is their Dispo manager. And their Dispo manager will have their go-to person, which is the team manager. Right now, we only have 1 team manager, and that's Lynn. So Lynn is going to try to keep this whole team as productive as possible so that any work you put into it, you actually see results out of it. That's the goal. The goal isn't to try to suck every piece of energy out of
I'm just waiting for my
we don't want to create a corporate environment where you're forced to work 9 to 5 or something like that. you will need to work at hours that the agents are working because you'll need to be talking to agents.
No, we're
So
waiting
there
on
are
the other
some,
one
you know,
first. There's something that-
some timeframes that you'll have to work within. But if you can try to work. Hold on a
Hey,
second.
PC, Carlos, could you guys mute? You're actually interrupting the meeting, please.
Mike?
PC, Carlos.
Mike, I'm making you a co-host. So if need be, just go ahead and mute if somebody's talking in the background or something, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. So kind of lost where I left off. So everyone has, we want an environment where everyone feels comfortable. You don't have to work 8 hours. If you can only work 2 hours, that's fine. If you can work 4, the idea is that whatever time you put into it, you get results. Somebody had mentioned before about, working their break. They had asked, if we're able to just like do 10 minutes during our break. But the answer to that is you're probably not going to be very successful if you can't do like at least a 90-minute block. The chance of it actually making progress and being skilled at your work and getting deals flowing are slim. So, we ask that each of you at least dedicate 2 hours per day to make this successful for you and for your entire team. So as well, the hours we mentioned during time where the agent's available, talking to the agent is a very key element of this whole process. Because if, we are submitting offers that are lower than what most agents will want or expect. They're trying to get their sellers the highest price possible, but not all agents understand what's going on with as-is properties. These properties need to be rehabbed, fix and flipped. And in the process of fixing flipping, there's hard money involved, there's the second closing involved, there's a profit margin involved. So we'll have to kind of train the agents as we're talking to them as to why our offers may not be what they expect them to be. So building that agent rapport is a very key element. We don't just find a property and email them an offer. What we need to do is actually, after we do a few preliminary numbers, we call them up and we talk to them. And we talk to them about, what's the condition of the property. We gather some more details that may or may not be apparent from the listing. We ask them about the seller's motivation, his timeline, and then we talk to them about the pricing, so that we can flat out tell them, we want to submit an offer. It may not be where the seller expects, but it's where we have to make it a deal. Is that okay if we go ahead and submit that offer? And that way they're preconditioned to receive a low offer. If we don't precondition them by building that rapport and having that conversation, they're going to view that as one of those low ball offers that they don't even want to send to their seller. Even if they're contractually bound to send it to the seller, they may or may not. In the end, we want the agents to be on our side just as much as the seller's side. So by having that conversation with them, they can go back to their seller and tell them, these are good people. And, the condition of the house means that, pardon me, it means that it's going to have to be fix and flipped. And these are the numbers, and this is why their number makes sense. So when we have that conversation with the agent ahead of time, then the agent will be on our side when they talk to the seller, and we'll have better results in actually negotiating and closing deals. So that's a key element, to be able to work hours where you can actually have that conversation with the agents, gather more information, build rapport, and precondition them to go to their sellers. Any questions on that part of it?
G. Johnson had a question about whether you want them to be qualifying the property when they talk to the agent.
Yeah, so qualifying the property. Um, uh, D Johnson,
Hi there.
hey there. There you are. What, can you specify exactly what you mean by
Well,
qualifying the property?
I understood you to say that the acquisition manager would be qualifying, in other words, finding out, is there a new, does the roof need to be replaced? How's the HVAC, et cetera, et cetera? Is that not what you want us to be doing as well when we call the agent?
Yeah, you guys will be doing that. That's on.
Oh, I thought, I understood acquisition. My apologies.
No, they're gonna be negotiating it,
Okay,
but you'll be doing the first step. So you'll be the first talking to the agent, gathering the initial information.
okay. Mhm.
You'll have a portal, and that portal will put all of the information, it'll have all the fields that the acquisition manager will need to populate in the CRM.
Perfect.
So, as you're talking to the agent, Alex is going to be working on developing a printout that you can use. You can either write it down, your notes. You want to make sure to gather the right information. You can either do it on a printout form or you can do it on the web portal form. Either way, it needs to go into the web portal so that the acquisition agent or acquisition manager has that information. But you guys will be the first ones to gather that. And those are very important pieces of information to be able to provide a first
Mhm.
offer. So
Mhm.
you might look at the house and say, wow, this place is in really good shape. It just needs a lipstick or a cosmetic fix, very little. But then you talk to the agent and say, well, just so that you know, there's this major issue over here that we didn't put in the description, and that changes the first offer, right?
Got it.
Yeah. So you'll be gathering all that info, and then you'll be developing and emailing that first offer out to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to show you now the calculator. Let me do a screen share with you. So we put together a calculator that is extremely simple and quick for you to be able to develop your first offer. You don't need a lot of details from Privy to be able to gather this, or from the agent to develop your first offer. You need the square feet of the house, the list price, the days on market, the ARV dollar per square foot, and we'll show you how to do that, and how much of a reno it is. Is it, here's the different categorized areas. It could be a lipstick, cosmetic, basic, gut, or destroyed. And then any major reno extras. Like in the case, let's say that it's a lipstick. It's a really easy, quick job. However, it does have a bad HVAC. So you would put lipstick in that case. And then down here, you would make this. Let's say it's a smaller house. It might only be a $5,000 HVAC. And now with this little 6 pieces of data, you can now know what the ARV is, the max allowable offer, and the first offer. Now, does anybody know, you can just use the raise your hand feature within Zoom. Why is the first offer not the max allowable offer? Why is it different? Anybody? Why is the max allowable offer different than the first offer?
Because you want to have a spread.
Yeah, you want a little bit of a spread so that you have negotiating room. So as we put in that first offer, the seller might say, well, let's counter at this price point. So if we put in the first offer of, in this case, 323, let me, if we put in a counter, if we put in a first offer of 323, and list price is 399 in this example, they might come back at 370. Well, if we had already marked it at 359 as our first offer, which is our max allowable offer, we have no room to negotiate with them. So having that room to negotiate makes them feel better because we're actually working with them. If we just tell them, no, that's our limit, we're 359 and we're done, they don't feel like we're working with them. So by having a first offer, this is marked at basically 90% of the max allowable offer. That gives us negotiating room and allows us to work with them to a point that actually will work for us. Does that make sense? So this is all you need to develop your first offer. These little pieces of information right here. There's a number of more fields that you'll need for the web portal, but not for your first offer. This is all you need. So any questions on this calculator before we move over to the privy side?
Quick question, real quick.
Yeah.
You got the ARV of 639 and the MAO 359. Now is that, are you trying to go at a certain percentage, 55%, or what are you trying to go at that?
So that's based off of a few things. Number one, the renovation type. So if you're dealing with a lipstick versus destroyed, that's going to change the overall percentage, right? So if you have a major rehab, a gut or a destroyed, number one, it costs more to do the rehab. But number two, your hold time is going to be longer. So you can flip a lipstick in a couple of months, but it might take you 5 or 6 months to do a gut. So as you're holding it, you have to remember that there's hard money costs that go up. But additionally, we're in a down facing market. So the actual price of the property can go down as you hold it longer. So because of that, the percentage grows and grows depending on the renovation type. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then also you have the major rental extras that's added into that, and the acquisition fee is added into that. So that by the time you get down to your first offer or your max allowable offer, it's subtracted out all of those costs to get you to that point.
Okay.
And just to let you all know that the dispo managers and acquisitions managers will be updating these calculators to be more market specific, so you'll be able to work with this on, and you'll be adjusted to your unique conditions in your market, because some markets will be higher and lower than others.
All right.
So this one here, notice it says MLS offer calculator dash Tampa. So they'll be taking we have Tampa. We're not quite working Tampa yet, but with the markets we're working, Jacksonville, Dallas, and Atlanta, we'll have calculators specific to those. You can just over here go to File, Download, and or make a copy, and then you can have your copies that you're working off of. Those copies are linked in the background to all the numbers that the dispos are keeping updated. So Mike mentioned that the acquisition and the dispos are making sure that these numbers are fitting for your marketplace as well as for the timeline. So if we get more into a recession, we may have to change these numbers to match the recession. So those dispos will be working in the background. Lynn is the first one to go through. She went through and tried to make all these equivalent per each market. But then the next step is that the dispos try to get them as solid as they can for that market, for the timeline that we're in. Make sense? Thank you, Mike, for including that. Any more questions on this calculator? We tried to make it as simple and easy for you as possible, so that you don't have to be an expert, fix and flipper or anything like that to be able to do this. You can be a newbie, come in, punch in these numbers, and be ready to fly. Every week we do, a lot of you have already been on it, the Deal or No Deal, and there's others within the Elephant Challenge that are also providing training, but those are set up to help you to be able to calculate. For example, the only thing you really need to, there's only 3 main points in here that you have to calculate. The square footage is there in Privy, the list price, the days on market, but the ARV dollar per square foot, you do need to know how to gather that information. And I'm going to show you briefly in a minute how to do that. but you can go to the last replay of the Deal or No Deal to see how to do that as well. The renovation type, you have to, based off of the listing images, the listing description, and your conversation with the agent, be able to pick the right one of these, and then any extras that are beyond the guidelines or the reno type. So like I mentioned before, if it's a lipstick, but you have to redo the HVAC, then you add that into the major reno extras. That's all. There's not a lot to this to calculate first offer. It's really quick and simple. And the idea is that we want your job to be so easy that you can start making money fast. We don't want you to have to go through a long learning curve to make money. So the first step is you just do this process. You're putting in offers, and then your acquisition manager is negotiating and closing, then to dispo, and then you get a paycheck. So it's super easy to be able to get paid in this business with this model. And then from once you get founded as a property finder, we want you to move up to be an acquisition manager. So this is the first step. And then the next step is acquisition manager. And then your next step is dispo. So we want you to keep growing in this business. And as you grow, you'll make more and more money as you move along. But this is just the foundation, the first step. And we want you to make money even on this first step. This isn't an unpaid, what do you call it? When somebody's working for somebody for free, like nurses or,
Internship or apprenticeship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not an unpaid internship. It's a paid internship. So your acquisition manager is teaching you and helping you to gain these skills as you move along, so that then you'll move up and you'll be teaching the new property finders. You'll be paying it back, just like someone, or paying it forward, just like someone helped you out, you'll be helping them out. At the same time, the dispos will be helping you to progress as an acquisition manager, and then you'll move to dispo. So this is a help each other out system so that we all can grow and we can all make money fast. So the idea behind this, as you saw in the introductory meeting that we held last Wednesday, I think it was, is that you can put in 20 offers per day. A lot of people have asked, well, how is that possible to do 20 offers a day? So I put in there the examples of a couple of people, Corey and Jerry, that they showed how to do it, basically 5 offers in an hour or 10 offers in 2 hours. Well, what we're saying is not 5 offers in an hour. We're saying only 3 offers in an hour. So that's your KPI. That's your measuring line to make sure that you're actually able to meet that production. So 3 offers in an hour is 20 minutes. So you want to try to have that as a goal. Initially, you'll struggle to be able to meet that goal, but over time, you're going to get better and better at it. And we don't want you wasting a bunch of time on things that aren't that important. So some people will spend an hour analyzing the property in great detail, and then in the end, they don't even put an offer in on it. So you just wasted that hour. We don't want you to waste an hour. We want every minute that you put into this to make sense, or dollars, right? So we want, you to spend your time where it counts. So in order to do this, this calculator is set up so that you can very quickly figure out your first offer price. So if you break down that 20 minutes, within 5 minutes, you should have your ARV, you should have reviewed your photos, looked at the description, and have a general idea of the renovation type. And then you hop on the phone and you talk to the agent. Spend 10 minutes building rapport. It might just be 5 minutes, but up to 10 minutes talking to that agent, gathering information, and getting your numbers right, building that rapport. Once you hang up the phone, then you spend 5 minutes putting this information into the CRM and popping them over your offer by email. You don't have to do a bunch of paperwork, just filling out the CRM and sending your offer through email. And all of that should take 20 minutes or less. According to them, they're doing 5 per hour. That's only 12 minutes. But we're giving you, a way to do it within 20 minutes. So you have more time per offer. It is totally doable. It just might take a little bit of practice to get to that point. The biggest obstacle that people might face is that ARV, getting the ARV quickly, because it can be challenging for some people. But we don't want you to feel like it's overwhelming and it's too much for you. So we're going to break it down. You can watch that last replay of the Deal or No Deal. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to send out all the replays. And I'm also going to show you very briefly how you can develop the ARV very, very quickly. Any questions so far?
Are you going to be able to put a link? How you say we can get the calculator?
Yeah, we'll send out this link so that you
Okay.
can access this calculator.
Okay.
In particular, the one for your market. So this one says Tampa. We'll send you the link for whichever market you're working, because it's in the background, it's tied to the numbers for that market. We don't want you to get the wrong calculator, just the right one. Thank you.
Ralph.
guys.
Ralph,
Yeah.
there's a few questions in the chat thread here before you move to the next piece.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Is the assignment fee included in the calculator as well? Yes, it is. So are those prices for things like HVAC estimated based on the prices in those areas? So HVAC, it's more driven by the price of the house, the size of the house than anything else. So if you have a 3,000 square foot house, it has to be able to heat or cool a large footprint, a large square footage. If you have a tiny house, your HVAC is going to be cheaper. We'll try to develop a shortcut list for you so that you can look up the HVAC and try to figure out how much that ought to be. But, a small house might be 5,000 to 7,000 for HVAC. A large house might be 10,000 to 15,000, or perhaps even 20 if it's a real large house. But it varies depending on, primarily the size of the house. Same thing for roof, but it will vary a little bit by market as well. Any other questions on that's relative to that same question? Did I answer that clearly?
I think the next couple of questions kind of echo that. And I think what we can and should do is we'll work with the market leaders to identify if there are any variances based on the market specific region, and give you like the top, like the major fives, HVAC, foundation, all these different things that could be cosmetic plus. So we'll work on getting that defined for you and add that to your book of resources, right?
Yeah, great idea, Lynn. Lynn, would you be able to put together the first draft of that, and that way the dispos can adjust that for their markets? Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. Pamela, do you want us to build in 15K assignment fee? That's already built in, Pamela. It's part of the calculation, so you don't have to worry about the assignment fee. Rob, not really a blanket percent based on comp. We're trying to be a little more accurate. Yeah. So to Rob's point, there's a lot of details that go on the background to be able to get you a number that works. Lynn Bell was going through each market to fine tune it. And then in the end, Rob and the other dispos are going to be fine tuning that even tighter as they move forward. But the idea is that you don't have to worry about a ton of numbers. We simplified it to the best we can for that initial offer. So offer one we don't want you to feel like you have to be so exacting that you're spending hours. You know, you have to remember that in a funnel, at the top of the funnel, there's going to be a lot of conversation and details and people. You know, you're talking to a lot of sellers agents, but most of them are just going to go away. Most of them are not going to yield fruitage. The next layer down is negotiating and closing. So that negotiating and closing layer, you know, they've already shown interest. So you can spend more time. As you move down the funnel, you spend more and more time because you know that it's going to yield fruitage. But at the very top of the funnel, when you're just finding a property and submitting an offer, you don't want to spend 2 hours per property. It's not worth the time. So you need to do that in a rapid fashion. And that's why we have that calculator. The initial offer does not have to be exact, but we're having a different calculator specifically for acquisition managers. So the acquisition managers will be a more exact number, so that once the negotiation process starts, they can look at the numbers and be able to fine tune it even tighter. You guys, as property finders, if you're talking to the agent or the agent calls you back and says, hey, you know, we can't do it at that number, but can you go here? You don't have to answer that. You just send them to the acquisition manager. You can tell them, you know, I'm going to have to refer that to my acquisition manager because he's going to look at the numbers a little bit closer. I'll have him call you. And then you move on to the next property, because your job is basically getting the ball rolling, and you're acting as a pre-filter to filter out anybody that don't want to negotiate. And as a pre-filter, you don't want to pour a bunch of time into people that don't want to negotiate. But then those that do want to negotiate, we do a more in-depth calculator to make sure that it's very accurate. Okay, so next. What if we have trouble contacting the listing agent? Sometimes they don't answer. Yeah, Curtis, you're absolutely right. Sometimes they don't answer. So if you can't get a hold of the listing agent, sometimes it works to try to get a hold of their office. There might be somebody at the office that can answer for you. If not, you might need to contact another agent that can work for us. You know, a lot of times, you know, sometimes the agents will want to represent us as the buyers as well, but other times they won't even feel comfortable doing that. They might refer to somebody else at their agency, and they might say, no, I can't do that. And then you have to work through a buyer's agent. That's perfectly fine to work through a buyer's agent. We don't have a problem with that. There are advantages of working through the listing agent. Those who feel comfortable doing that, we can be, you know, by not having that separation, we're talking to the agent who's talking to the seller. That agent can be on our side as well. And that can help us to be able to get the deal, for the seller to understand our numbers. But it doesn't mean it's a no-go if we can't get a hold of that one. What I've done before is just go to, if you have already a buyer's agent in the area that you know, that buyer's agent can probably help out in that communication, and you know, they'll get paid too. Or go through Zillow form or something like that to find a buyer's agent. But what we don't want to do is spend an hour, you know, skip tracing this listing agent that is not responding. It's just not worth the time and effort. There's lots of properties out there. So we can either try to find a buyer to help us get a hold of him, a buyer's agent, I should say, or just move on to a new property, or the actual agency number itself. Lynn, do you have any input on that?
I just threw in the chat that what Ralph is describing when an agent is representing both the buyer and the seller is called dual agency. So you'll learn that language if you don't know it already. And sometimes that's the quickest way to ask that question when you're contacting the agent. You will naturally, and you should build relationships with buyer agents as well. So if you need to reach out to a buyer agent in your market, you'll probably start adding those to your contact list as well. If dual agency is available, I think we should use it. It makes a lot of sense.
100%. Absolutely.
Can I add something? As
Yes,
far as
Michelle.
contacting the agents, so what I've been doing is I'll call the agent, and if the agent doesn't answer, I send a text. Hey, Linda, this is Michelle calling in regards to your property, 123 Main Street listed. If you could please give me a call back so we can chat about it. And then if they don't respond, they don't call, they don't text, I just leave it in my watching, or in my whatever column in Privy, and I'll write my notes, and then I'll go back. Like this morning, I contacted agents that I didn't get to speak to yesterday, and one of them answered, and two still didn't answer. So, I don't spend a lot of time. I don't wait around. I just move on to the next, like you said, just move on to the next property.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, Rob did make a really good point. I didn't want to drill too deep, but there are certain states that dual agency is not allowed. Texas is one of those. So work with your acquisitions manager, work with your dispo teams to make sure that what's happening region specific. We're being the most efficient in our communication. But yeah, some of this will kind of come organically as you start to work in your markets.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So, lean on your acquisition agents or acquisition managers to be able to feed you that information. They're going to be your go-to person. Like Lynn and Rob was saying, there are market specific things that we'll need to keep in mind, but your acquisition manager will know that market specific information and be able to guide you with that. So Lynn, no. Lynn, who was she? Okay, yeah, so that was answered. Okay, it looks like we answered all those questions. I want to show you briefly. Well, before we do that, I'm going to be showing you how to go into Privy and develop an ARV super fast. Before we do that, I would like any input from Lynn Bell, Mike Jones, any of the dispos, and any of the acquisition managers, so that, if they have other things to do. In particular, the dispos and Lynn have been in the training for hours already, and we really appreciate you guys being here. Same thing with Mike, but I don't want to hold you guys unnecessarily. So any more input that you guys would like to add before we go into the ARV in Privy?
Whoops, I was muted. I think at this stage, at this starting juncture, I want to encourage you all to not overcomplicate this. What Ralph is about to show you is just one drop in the bucket, but that's the drop in the bucket we're going to lean into right now. And instead of trying to recreate the wheel and we're all going in 67 different directions, let's all get really tight vision that we're moving in the same direction. So soak up what Ralph is about to show you, use that as your operating procedure for now. And as we grow and evolve together, we can grow and evolve the types of methods that we use to field leads.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so I'm going to go over to Privy and then share my screen with you. And okay, so does somebody have a market that they, we can do any of those three markets, Dallas, Atlanta, or Jacksonville. Any preferences?
Atlanta.
All right, Atlanta it is, you won. Now, Atlanta has a disadvantage in that it's currently orange instead of blue. So orange is MLS coming soon. Whereas the blue, it already has MLS data. But Benson is saying that this will be very soon that Atlanta has MLS data. So even though you might not see some of the photos and information because of that, don't be disheartened because it will be here soon. The first thing that I would like to do, before I start looking at properties is find an area that is actually doing fix and flips. So I'm going to go into the filter. Instead of active, I'm going to click on sold. So I'm going to unclick the active. And I'm going to click fix and flip so that it'll show me the houses that have been fixed and flipped. So then I hit the run search and it filters down to just those properties. So, you all have seen this in too much time in locating the information. But if you zoom into an area that has a lot of properties, now you can make sure that you're using your time in an area where fix and flips are actually happening. Just waiting for this thing to update. Okay, there we go. So let's say, for example, that I want to focus on this little section right here. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I do is pencil out my region. So let me redo that. So I'm only going to do this area. Okay, so now this is the region that I know fix and flips are happening in that I want to try to find good properties for. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I penciled in my area, is go back over here and instead of sold, I want active. There's other filters that we're going to help you to set up to save a particular search for your area. We might do filters that are set up for percentage of ARV, days on market, but basically set it up to yield the results that we want to see and then run the search. Now it's only showing within the area that we penciled out because that we know that's where fix and flips are happening. And it's set up for 75%. 75% is a good filter if you're doing a lipstick or a cosmetic. So you can go over here. Some of these will be much more than a lipstick or cosmetic. Like this guy, you can already tell it needs some work done to it just by looking at that initial photo. Right now, I'm just going to talk about ARV and show you how you can quickly develop an ARV out of this. So I'm going to click on it. It's obvious it needs work. When you look at these, there's only one picture here. You can go to Google the address. You might find a few more pictures, but don't waste too much time because you're going to be talking to the agent and they're going to tell you more. And you're going to read this right here about, its general condition. Once you do that, now it's time to actually look for the ARV. So when you come down to this image right here, it shows you a ½ mile radius and which properties are within that radius. Because we clicked fix and flip and we set the ARV to 75%, the blue ones, it's trying to show us ones that already might be good comps. So it's comparing the square footage and other details to try to give us a close match for the comp. So because this is non-MLS data, we don't have all the details. Like the square feet, it's not giving us the square feet of these properties. But what we can do, instead of looking at the square foot, we can look at the, well, no, we can't. So Atlanta is going to be a little bit more challenging until that comes in because it doesn't provide us the square feet, which means it's not providing us the ARV per square feet. But what we can do is take these properties and we can go out to Redfin or Zillow to get a more accurate number for them. So, these three, we can see they're ours is a 3.2, this is a 3.2, this is a 3.2, but these two is a 2022 year build. We don't want those. 2022 is definitely out because it's just too new of a building. It doesn't compare to ours at all. This one does, but the challenge with this one is it's from April. So I'm going to click over to here to see what else is out there. This one, it's from 1950, which is an old building. So 1920, 1950, that's fine. They're both in that same old era. So it's okay to have that as a comparable. The April, I'm going to get rid of that because that's just too old. So now I'm left with this one. This is a 2.1. This is a 3.2. So more than likely, this one is significantly smaller. So because of that, I'm going to click on all properties, and that's going to fill in a lot more. So again, I'm going to pencil out what does not fit into my area. So Avon Ave looks like a big Ave, as well as Freeway. And I'm going to filter it down to over here to match this area. So let me just draw a line here and basically take out anything that's not within the boundaries of what I want to be looking at. Okay, so there's our boundaries. Now, once I do that, the first thing I'm going to do is come over to the sold, and I'm going to get rid of anything that's too old, because if it's more than 3 months old, in particular with this unstable market, you're looking at prices that are not the current comp price. So I'm just going to delete this old stuff. So I like to work my way pretty much from right to left in these columns. In particular, the sold date, you can get rid of 3/4 of them just by that sold date. So, we're in the tail end of September. October. So going 3 months back, September, July, August, I'm only going to do, let's see, August, September, October. I'm going to do the tail end of July forward. Other than that, it's older than 3 months. I don't want it. You see how much properties I'm just taking off the plate really fast. All right, now we're getting a little bit closer. Before I take off more properties in that list, I'm going to go to the build and cut out things that are not within the same build era. Like this one, definitely. This one, definitely. 1960, maybe, but I'll just save that for later. Now I'm going to go look at the beds and baths. I would normally go to the square foot, but well, a lot of these have square feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this address and I'm just going to go look at it real quick in Google, and it should tell me the square feet. So 1323 square feet. See that? So that's what I'm going to use for my square feet. Again, with Atlanta, you got to do a little bit more because of that. But on the other ones, they have MLS data. It'll tell you the square feet. So what I say, 1323? Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to filter out anything that's not close to 1323. This one is 1900. Get rid of that. And then this one is 3400. 2300. So, I like to keep it within a couple hundred if I can. That one's gone. So now these are close. This one's too small. This one's too small. Okay, now we have a little bit tighter of a bracket. We're looking at a 3.2, single level, no garage, no basement. So this one here has a garage. It's a 2.1, so that's definitely out. And now we're down to just these four. So looking at these four, they're all within 3 months. They're within the same build era. They all have a single level, no garage, no basement. This one's a 3.1 as opposed to a 3.2. So I'm going to get rid of that one. Now, the only thing left that we're really concerned about is the dollar per square foot. This one, it says 0, so we don't really, it didn't calculate the dollar per square foot because it didn't show the square footage due to MLS data. We can quickly and easily figure that out because we know that it was 1340 before. So if we take our handy dandy calc and do the 380 divided by 1340. So that's $284 per square foot. So 284, this one was 317, this was 211. That gives us a little bit of a idea of where this thing is going to fall for ARV. All of these are pretty good comps, except this one is a 3.3 and these are 3.2s. They changed it from a 3.2 to a 3.3. So this one is not as good of a comp because of the fact that it's not an exact match. So that one was a 284, by the way. So these are the only two left. This is a 317 and this is a 221. Those are a pretty big spread as far as the price per square foot. This one here, looking at the map, is right next door, just around the corner. So I would first go off of that one, but that's the higher end one. If you want to take a quick look at the pictures, you can kind of see what they did. This is a pretty decent looking job they did on this. It's not super high end, but it's not super low end either. Let me take a look at this one now. Oh, that's the same one. I think I did the same one twice. Ah, I just deleted on accident. Oh, I hate it when I do that. Well, it's gone now, so I'll have to redo the whole process to bring it back. But that one was, what I say, $3 per square foot. It was like 320 something. Yeah, be careful with that. Like I just did. I hit this button instead of this button, and I basically.
I averaged the two of them. The average of those two should have been 269 a square foot, if that's what you're asking.
That helps. Yeah, that was what the end goal was. So 269 per square feet. Once you have that 269 per square feet, per square foot, then you can simply go back to your calculator, punch that 269 per square foot in, it'll give you your offer price. Now, was there a big difference between these two comps? Yeah, there was a big difference. One of them is right next door. It was the higher price tag. You can mention to the realtor and to your acquisition manager that, yeah, there's two comps, there's a big spread, but the one right next door was the highest. They can take that data back when we're trying to dispo it. The upfront honesty of saying, yeah, the higher comp was right next door, but there was a lower comp that was a few blocks away. That way the dispo, that team, when they're talking to the buyer, the potential buyer, they can see we're being totally open and honest with them, and that will help in the dispoing. So averaging out the two, I think it was Lynn that just said that, that's a good method so that you are not just taking the highest. A lot of people will take the highest comp and run with it, but then they're going to view you as not really being fair or honest when you're just taking the highest comp. By averaging the highest, which is right next door, and the other match, which is a few blocks away and lower, then it's more of an accurate type of a comp. Especially when we're making offers, we don't want to run with just the highest, because then we may be putting in an offer that's so high that in the end, it's hard to dispo. So that's part of the process, is making sure that your ARV number that you're coming up with is something that is easy to dispo down the road. So don't always go with the highest. Go with, like Lynn showed you, she averaged those two and gave you the number of the average. That's where I was going to take it, but I accidentally deleted it. If you do that, the only thing you can do at that point is hit the reset button and you get everything back. And then you got to go through and delete all your records again, like you had done a minute ago.
Question.
Yeah,
What about lot size? I mean, that's bigger lot size than the subject.
lot size does matter, but it's not as important if it's within a certain,
Yeah, that's like 10,000 more. Is that?
well, okay, so you have,
what I do is, sorry for breaking, but what I do is I comp those at 15% above or below. If they're within 15%, then that's what I use.
it depends on the lot size, if you're dealing
Right.
with 7,000 versus 11,000, that's not a big difference. If you're
Right.
talking about 7,000 versus 40,000, now we're talking about an acre. If you're talking about a third of an acre or less, it kind of fits in the same city lot size. If you get to, half an acre, 1 acre, 5 acres, now you have land value that's starting to play more of a mix into the total price tag. Does that make sense?
Somewhat. I guess I'm a little bit still confused on it a little bit, because usually I thought it was like you do 2,500 front or back.
Can you repeat that?
No, I'm saying that I've seen it done where you do 2,500 front and then 2,500 back.
Okay.
Or
There's a
2,500.
lot of different methods. You'll
Okay.
find 100 different methods of tackling this.
Uh-huh.
Especially as the first offer. We don't want you having to worry about, a lot of calculations. You can
Okay.
calculate extra for front, extra for back, extra for an extra bathroom, driveway, garage versus, 2 garage versus 1 versus carport. There's a lot of things that you can bring it up or down with.
Okay. And
A
then
lot of people here are brand new, and we're trying to make this super easy for people initially. Your acquisition agent will help develop those skills, but right now we don't want to break it out so much that it's overwhelming for everybody. The
Gotcha.
simplest way to do it is, within that 5-minute range is what I'm showing you right here. You want to build generation. Some people will say plus or minus 10 years. Well, that might be true if you're with a new house, but with older houses, that window is a lot bigger, because 1920 versus 1950, nothing really changed that much. So I like to do it by build generation and by, categorizing the size of the lot as well. So if you have a lot that's, a general city block, even if it's one's a quarter and one's a third, it's, and one's an eighth, it's the difference in price is not going to be substantial of the value of that house. It's going to be fairly minute. When you get into variations like 1 bath more, that's more substantial. Garage or no garage, basement or no basement, that's more substantial. So the idea is to filter it down to all of your main substantial items are gone, and you try to find as close of a match within there. Some variations will be there, but if you average them out, in the end, it's not going to be that substantial. Like Lynn showed, averaging 2 properties out. One might have a little bit larger lot, one a little bit smaller, but those things kind of get averaged out if you have all the main things set to where they need to be.
Hey, Ralph, can I interject really quick?
Yeah.
Curtis, I think you have a valid point, but there is definitely a weight to what the most important criteria need to be when you're thinking of, hey, I got to come up with 2 to 3 really good comps. Notice I didn't say exact comps. That would be the perfect scenario, right? But as
Right.
we're learning, we need to have a close, a close comparison. Would it be great if we had apples to apples? Yes. We don't want apples to oranges. And what I mean is, you don't want to do a 2-story to a 1-story. That's not a comp. So you got to look at the pictures. You don't want to do brick to wood frame, because they're just not priced the same. When you weight those kind of criteria for filtering, lot size comes down like 7 or 8 in the criteria of filtering. Because then you got to start talking about, well, is this like seasoned, like landscaping, is there huge trees but a small yard? And then it becomes preferential to what the buyer wants. The things that are the most important in comping is the structure itself, and making sure that you're getting something that if you're going to renovate it like a 1940s, is going to be probably an electrical issue if they haven't done any upgrades. So you don't want to compare that to a 1975, right? So those kinds of things, what Ralph is saying is like, let's start from the right and go to the left. It's just a hierarchy of filtering it out. It's not going to be perfect. It's a conversation starter.
Yes.
Okay,
Does that help?
gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and remembering that the purpose of this is acting as a pre-filter. So your initial offer is not the final offer. It's a pre-filter to try to determine their interest level, if they're ready, if they're motivated enough to negotiate. And most of the people here are new, so we don't want people to get lost in a lot of minute details. But the acquisition team will fine tune that before they finalize where we're going to close at. And even then, Dispo finds a buyer, the buyer goes out and checks out the property. They might say, this isn't going to work here. And even though acquisition, you did your best, acquisition did their best to close it at the right number. If the buyer says it doesn't work, we can go back and renegotiate. It's not our goal to renegotiate, but sometimes it needs to be done. So, don't worry too much about getting an exact number. We do appreciate, I think it was Curtis that was talking, we do appreciate your input about, these variations. They do make a difference, but Lynn did a great job of defining, what to worry about and when to worry about it. Thank you, both of you, Curtis and Lynn. Okay, so someone's asked if we can do this another from scratch. Yeah, it's, the training time is up. We don't want to hold anybody if you need to go. We really appreciate you being here. I can run through another one, not a problem. I'll be happy to do that. Before we run through another one, let me just check these questions. While I'm checking the questions, Alex or Lynn, do either of you want to provide any more input? Actually, Mike Jones as well. Want to provide any input on this training before we move forward?
Ralph, I assume you're going to be sending the SOPs with this kind of like step-by-step breakdown out after this call, because someone had asked about that. I think what you guys are going to be getting is going to be the documentation of the process that Ralph is showing you. So then you can practice this over and over as you get started.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think reach out. That's why you've got team members, peers, and acquisition managers. And if they can't answer it, they'll reach out to someone who can answer it. Do not suffer in silence. Reach out. There is no wrong or silly question.
Hey,
Thank you.
Ralph. Yeah, I was gonna say exactly the same thing Len said. We're all here to help each other, so feel free. There's gonna be people that are really new that need the help, and there's gonna be seasoned people here as well. We're building a community to help each other. So if you feel lost in any kind of way, reach out to your acquisitions team or reach out to somebody that's has a little more experience in comping, and maybe you got, talk to that person as well. But reach out and talk to everybody. Networking here is going to be a key factor of how we move forward. So, just try to be patient. Everybody's not going to get this overnight. It's going to take time, and we're here to help everybody individually at a time. So just, be patient.
Yeah. Dee asked, how do we introduce ourselves to the agents? My name is so-and-so, I'm an investor. Or do we identify ourselves with who we are with? You can start by just saying your name and you're an investor. You're going to be, you're part of a team. So this is Harp Home Solutions, LLC. We don't want to introduce ourselves as Fat Juicy Deals. That will not appeal to a seller or a seller's agent, a listing agent. But we're Harp Home Solutions. And that's what's going to go on the actual contract is Harp Home Solutions.
I just put the name in the chat.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And, our goal is to present a win-win for everybody, right? The seller wants to sell, the agent wants to commission. We want a commission, so to speak. We want a fee out of it. The buyers want a home they can fix and flip. In the end, it's got to work for everybody, right? So we're solutions providers. And that's the idea between Harp Home Solutions is it's a solution for everybody involved in this whole thing. And we want them to understand that. So when you're talking to the agent, you can say your name, you want to be yourself. You are an investor, but you're also part of an organization, which is Harp Home Solutions. So the buyer might be from within Harp Home Solutions walls, like any of you, whether you're property finders or acquisition managers, dispo manager, team manager, Mike himself, who's he's the admin guy, or us as owners, any of us could be the buyer. So, we might be the buyer or we might find a buyer. So as you're talking to them, that's the mindset that you want to present, and you can totally be open with them. You can tell them, we might end up buying it ourselves, we as in the whole team, somebody within the team, or we might, we might go, if it doesn't work for us in the end, we have buyers that buy from us. So there's nothing wrong with presenting yourself in that fashion so they understand. And, we're going to have a contract for you that will basically allow us to assign it so that it can be assigned to anybody within our group or outside of our group. Make sense?
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now let me go to a different market. We just did one here in Atlanta. So I'm going to back out and let's go out to Jacksonville.
And also, while you're going out there to do that, I was just looking at Ms. Pre's comment as well. We do have kind of like a little template with the agent script, just to kind of give you a baseline when you're talking on the phone. We could probably provide that as well.
All right. So now we can see where some heavy areas are for fixing and flipping. So I'm going to focus in this little area right here. So I'm going to take my pencil. So each time you go in here, you can chisel out an area that works for you. And then the next time around, you might chisel out a different area within your market. So looking in this area, oh, come on. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, you know what? Before I chisel that, I should have made sure that I'm on the sold. So let me just double check that this is still good as for a sold property search. Not that much. So I'm going to redo this, find a better area for sold properties. Oop. There we go. So I'm going to try this area right here. This looks pretty decent. There we are. So now that I have this chiseled out, I'll go over here and switch it from sold to active. So this is our area we're hunting in. So just glancing through here, all of these are supposed to be 75% or less. If they're, we can kind of tell by looking at the picture if it needs some work. One of the challenges if they don't need work, if it's already picture perfect, is it's harder to get them to negotiate down because they can probably just sell it to an end buyer. If it needs work, then they're more challenged to sell it to an end buyer. And one of the things that helps us there is the days on market. So if I take this days on market and I raise it up, so right now it's not filtered for days on market, but let's say I want to take it, let's see, where's the days on market? Oh, here we are. So I'm going to say I want it to be at least 30 days on market. Now it's going to filter out stuff that has not set on the market at all. These things that are 30 days and up are more likely that they'll want to negotiate, less likely that it's available, you know, for that somebody on the market's just going to pick it up. This one here, it looks pretty decent, but it looks like it could use a little bit more curb appeal. Let me look inside. Yeah, to me, this looks like a potential lipstick. It's not bad, but they could definitely do a few things to make it a little bit nicer. It's close. Let me just look at another one. You know, this one here looks staged and everything, so I wouldn't even bother looking at that. Let me take a look at this one. Yeah, so, you know, I can tell this one is in need of a little bit more help than the last one. It's still not bad. So this one could be a good lipstick or cosmetic. So just looking at the, I'm going to scroll down here to see what the ARVs look like. So this is on this side of the freeway. I don't want anything on this side of the freeway. I want it to be within the main road. So Edgewood looks like a main avenue along with the freeway system. So let me just pencil out to only get what's fitting in this criteria. There we go. Now that I've penciled that out, I see two that it's tagged as investors. This one is not sold, it's active. I definitely don't want an active. So there's only one it's tagged as an investor type property that kind of fits our criteria. So it's about the same size. It's from the last 3 months, same build generation, levels, basements, garage. It is a 3.2 instead of a 3.1. So because of that, it comps a little bit higher than ours. It was a 251 per square foot. Ours is a 206. There's not a lot of room there. You know, this is what the list price is. So we definitely have to take that down. But if it was a 2, you know, the fact that this is a 3.2 and ours is a 3.1, you know, again, we can take out like 10K because it's missing a bathroom. But let me just look over here real quick at the pictures just to see if this one was how good of a rehab. So this looks like it's probably not even not fix and flip, but just a seller. Let me double check here. Previous sell. Yeah. So they held it for a couple years before they sold it. It's probably not a fix and flipper, although they did some nice upgrades to what it was before. But I'm going to go ahead and go over to the sold ones because there's not enough information in the blue investor button. This gives me more data to choose between. And what I'm going to do first, again, right to left, I'm going to sort by the sold, get rid of the old stuff. Anything older than 3 months, don't even want to look at. Okay, now we're getting close to the 3 month mark. I'm going to look at the other stats, build generation. They all look good. No basements. Garages are all the same, levels are all the same. This is a 3-1. I see a 2-1, 3-1, and some 2-2, 3 2s and a 2-2. So the 3-1 is the best fit, but I want to first double look over here and I'm going to check out the square footage. They all look about the same. The dollar per square foot, they all look comparable. So, you know, the one that's a 3-1 is the exact match as far as basically everything across the board. This one here, though, is indicating it was a fix and flip. You see how it has one number stacked on top of the other number? That being a fix and flip is a little bit better than the others because of the fact that it was rehabbed to the right standards. I'm going to look at the pictures in a second, but you can also see that the fix and flip has a higher dollar per square foot than everything else, even though it's only a 2-2 and this is a 3-1. It's because it's a fix and flip that means it's all brand new stuff in there. I'm going to quickly look at those pictures. Notice it says, is this the right one? $33.42 Delwood. Okay, this is the right one. So this is within a year from purchase to sell. It looks like around 9 months or so. And it has to be within a certain time frame for it to qualify as a fix and flip. So you can see it went from $143 per square foot to $282. And looking at the pictures, you can see what they did to it, how they improved it. So it looks in pretty decent shape. Now, the fact that it's only a 2-2, that kind of, you know, it's a different setup, different layout. Square footage is a little bit less, but not much. But what I would do is, you know, because this is not an exact match, I would include this one at 282. This one's 248. These are all at basically 260, 261. So if you average these out, you're going to be in that range of 262-ish. So, or 260, 261. That's the number I would go with. I would go with 261 and multiply it by the square foot. So if I take 261 times 1064, I would put the ARV at 278. So, you know, the law of averages, this one is a recent fix and flip. This is a 3-1, which matches what we have. So they all kind of even themselves out. And just looking at these dollar per square foot, they all kind of even themselves out in the middle, right? So if you added up all these numbers and divided by 5, you're going to get a little bit different probably than my 261, but it'll be close. Let me just see what that'll end up. If I take, what is that, 282 plus 262 plus 260 plus 261 plus 248 divided by 5, that gave me 262.6. So almost the same as what I had. And then I multiply that by the square feet, 1064, that gave me 279. Again, we're just trying to ballpark it. We don't have to have an exact number at this point. So 279 or using 263 per square foot to punch into our calculator, that does the job. Any questions on that? As far as next steps to go, we will just wait for an email for our teams. When will we actually be getting started? So the emails, we're going to get the emails set up today. We're hoping that everyone can get started today. There's just a lot to lay out, a lot to get rolling. So by the end of the day, we hope to have everything in your direction so that you can move forward. And your team leaders, your acquisition managers will be reaching out and establishing that weekly meeting with you. But we want you to be able to get rolling as quickly as possible. We'll try to have everything to you by the end of the day, if at all possible. If not, then by tomorrow. Any other questions? It looks like I got all the questions in there. If I missed one, please speak up.
No, I don't think any questions were missed, but one thing I would say, I'm sorry, is that everybody just kind of, when Ralph puts out the replay, just go back and watch it and practice what he was just doing. And it's just going to make it a little more easier. And then once you get consistent at it, then you'll be able to get to that level where you're putting out those 20 offers a day. And it just makes it so much more easier. But then, yeah, just practice with the calculators and stuff and go from there.
A couple of things that'll help there. Don't get lost in the weeds.
Mhm.
It's really easy to get tied up with things. And before you know it, a lot of time has passed and you're stuck on one little thing that doesn't really matter that much. The idea is this is just the first offer. It doesn't have to be exact. So just take action and get the offer out. If it's too
Yes.
high, what's the worst that could happen? They say yes, the acquisitions come back and they say, this was too high. There's no room for profit in it. And then we have to go back to them and say, we made a mistake. Not the end of the world. No one's going to shoot you over it. If it's too low, what's the worst going to happen? They're not going to want to negotiate. Okay, well, there's always another property. So don't be afraid. Just move forward.
Right.
The
Yeah,
biggest
correct.
thing is just move forward.
Yeah,
And
just
as
make
you
the
get
offer.
practice, you do more and more of these offers, you're going to get better and better. If you're doing 20 offers a day, you're going to become an expert at this in no time. Anybody else? Thank you, guys. You held out a lot longer than we had anticipated. We planned it for an hour. It's an hour 25. Really appreciate you coming in. And we want you to get going as fast as you can. Sherry, how many offers for part-time? Yes, 10. The basic formula is 3 per hour. So if you're doing 2 hours, you should be able to do 6 offers. If you're doing 4 hours, we're saying 10 for part-time or 20 for full-time, but the basic formula is 3 per hour.
And again, just remember, it's just a ballpark. You have a buffer when it goes up to your acquisitions manager, they're going to look at it as well. So right now it's just getting the offers out there.
Yeah, the idea here is not to perfect it. You don't want a perfect offer. This is the beginning of the funnel. So the more offers you get in the funnel, the more deals will come out of it. If you only get 1 offer per day because you're spending too much time on it, how many deals are you going to get out of that? Probably 0. Yeah, exactly. But if you're doing 20 offers a day, how many deals are going to come out of that? Well, if you look at it through the course of a week, 100 offers should equal 2 deals. If everyone's just starting out, it might only equal 1 deal. But as we get better, 100 offers should equal 2 deals. So if you're doing 20 offers a day, you should be producing 1 to 2 deals per week. Now your paychecks are going to get bigger, because of the fact that you're doing more offers. So don't spend too much time in the weeds trying to perfect your offer. Just get it out there. Just make your offers. And as you're putting offers out, you'll get better and better and better.
Correct.
Anything else, Lynn? Mike,
No,
Jones?
I think you guys have said it. We are on the eve of taking action right now. Is absorb the information, practice. You should be getting contacted by your acquisitions manager to really just launch you guys out here at the end of the day, tomorrow morning. But when that happens, the best medicine to nervousness and not really knowing what the future holds is just take some action. Just take action. And that's where getting 3 offers in an hour, like Ralph said, it'll probably be a little slower in the beginning and then you'll ramp up. Follow the process and don't overthink it. It's a conversation starter. And the more action you take, the more opportunity you give yourself. So we're here to help you. I think Audrey has her hand raised, or maybe that was from a while ago. I don't know. Audrey, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just, not a question. I just wanted to, say that, a lot of people haven't signed into the Discord. I was trying to connect with some of my acquisitions, team members, but I can't find them on the Discord. So please check in, you guys, everyone, so that we can get the ball rolling.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Audrey.
Good point.
And another thing dealing with that is if somebody doesn't have privy yet, if you can't afford privy, we do have one person, Jorge, that's going to be working a list that's not on market. We don't want any of you to be left out. So that's a good opportunity to go ahead and start flowing, even if you haven't, even if you don't have privy. Okay, so hopefully everyone does have privy, but that opportunity is there for those that may not have privy. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We appreciate your time and appreciate you being part of the team. And we hope we all can make some good money together.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.